champion Phillies victory celebration. Brought to you in part by Girard Bank. Girard salutes baseball's best. We're proud to be teammates with Philadelphia's fabulous Phillies. By Tasty Cake. Take a championship time out with Tasty Cake. By Eric Theaters. The best movies in town are at an Eric. Catch one soon. By Kmart. Kmart is the saving place. By Gulf and their new super unleaded gasoline. And by Michelob Light. Compare the taste of Michelob Light to any beer.
You love the Phillies. Stay with us now here on Channel 17, your Phillies station. This is the moment we waited for so many years. Hi, Bob Bradley. The 1980 celebration of the champions. The 1980 Phillies are indeed the kings of baseball. We woke up this morning and discovered it really was true. Our dream came true. Last night, they reached the top of the mountain. Today, the whole city salutes. Stay with us. We're going to join you from time to time here at the studios at Channel 17. We'll be going out to the street and follow the parade route and, of course, that great moment of celebration when it all converges on JFK Stadium. The team is the best bunch of baseball battlers in this city's history. We've had teams that have come close. And today we're going to be talking to some of the heroes of the past who were denied that ultimate victory. And they'll join us right here in the studios. As I said before, we'll go out in the street, get a description from our reporters in the field. We'll also share the great moments of 1980, personal reflections, video highlights of this marvelous odyssey to the championship. Let's take just a moment now to bring in our four reporters. First of all, we're going to switch to Howard Eskin, who's at 18th and Walnut Street, and Howard's at the assembly area. Howard, if you can hear me, what does it look like right now?
No audio, tell him we'll go to Sid.
All right, we're unable to contact Howard at this point. He will be at 18th and Walnut. Sid Doherty is standing by at the Fairmount Hotel. That location, of course, is Broad and Walnut. And Sid, I believe, hears us very clearly and is ready to report. Sid?
Comes to a ticker tape parade, but boy, Philadelphia is #1 when it comes to the toilet paper parade. It's hanging out of all the buildings here down on Broad Street. I'm at Broad and Walnut, right across the street from the Fairmount Hotel. You can't believe the enthusiasm of this crowd. If you're caught with a microphone in your hand and staring into a camera lens, it's worth your life because these people all want to be on camera. Philadelphia is to be congratulated on its celebration of the World Series champion Philadelphia Phillies because they've enjoyed themselves, but they haven't committed any mayhem. Like out in Pittsburgh, when they win the World Series, they have riots. Here in Philadelphia, they just have a good time, a good party. People throw things at you, cigarettes, all kinds of stuff. And everybody is happy. They're waving the Phillies banners. The blimp just went overhead, and that got a standing ovation. I got a standing ovation for nothing. And don't think I didn't love it. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't like to be in crowds. I don't mind being in front of them, but I can't stand being in the middle of them. I've never been in anything like this before, and I hope to never be in anything like this again. I don't even know how I'm going to get home. But it's a nice time while I'm here. I'll probably be talking to you a little later from the Fairmount Hotel. So back to you, Bob Bradley.
Sid Doherty, assailed by the slings and arrows of celebrating Philadelphia Phillies fans. And, of course, we'll be joining Sid from time to time throughout the morning. Dan Baker, who works with us on the Phillies Today telecast and also serves as the public address announcer at the stadium, has been enduring with the Phillies for many, many years. And Dan is part of our broadcast this morning. And he's set up at Broad and Snyder in South Philadelphia. Dan.
Bob, here in the heart of South Philadelphia, the smell of good food is in the air, but that's overshadowed by the smell of victory and a Phillies World Championship. And all this morning in South Philadelphia, there's been a steady stream of cars down Broad Street, which was shut off to vehicles moments ago, and now it's a steady stream of well-wishers and people making their way to John F. Kennedy Stadium to celebrate the Phillies World Championship. And as we look up Broad Street, there's a big gang of people, a big crowd, and we can see hugging and kissing. It's good news and bad. The good news is the hugging and the kissing. The bad news might be the pickpocketing in this crowd situation. Of course, the 3 wallets that I've managed to acquire, I'm anxious to go open those. Bob, It's a great situation here, and this is Dan Baker in South Philadelphia reporting on Channel 17, your World Series and World Championship station in Philadelphia.
Has a great ring to it. Thank you, Danny. And then standing by at JFK Stadium, where all of this build-up is going to culminate early this afternoon, and probably the greatest celebration of any sports victory in the city's history, is the multi-talented Gene Hart. Gene?
Downtown Philadelphia, where the giant parade of this great day begins, winding its way down to South Broad to the great sports complex of the Vet, the Spectrum, and of course JFK Stadium, jam-packed to greet their triumphant heroes. And we say that the Phillies' victory is a victory of veteran players. Well, it's also a victory for veteran fans, and we have one here from Woodland, Pennsylvania, Joe Ariza. And Joe, your credentials for being a Philly fan?
I've loved them ever since 1942 when I came in this area. Robert Roberts in the 50s. I don't know. I've been hoping ever since.
I guess the bottom of the well was the mid-40s Blue Jays.
That really was.
78 in the playoffs, but no World Series. And did you ever give up hope?
Never. At the day the whole Delaware Valley is happy, wonderful. In fact, I was up at 6 o'clock this morning just to come down here.
Joe, besides just the World Series, as a sport fan, what does the Phillies' triumph mean to you?
It gives me a wonderful feeling I can't explain. It's inexplainable, but everyone is so happy.
I think you've just explained it. Gene Hart along with Joe Ariza, a Phillies fan from JFK. And now back to you, Bob.
All right. Thank you very much, Gene. And understand we have maintained contact with Howard Eskin through this brief interview segment here. And Howard is standing by the assemblage area, which would be at 18th and Walnut Street. Howard, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can, Bob, and there's no question this is happening. The parade started at 20th and JFK Plaza in Center City here, and the parade is now moving along Market Street. They're now passing by 18th and Market, and all the players are on the floats, and Larry Boa is getting the crowd stirred up at the head of the float, and Mike Schmidt is there, Steve Carlton is there, Greg Lazinski. The Fanatic is backing up the parade with all the procession of motorcycle policemen and the police paddy wagons, but it's obviously happening 10 to 20 deep along the sidewalks here on Market Street. They packed up quickly, and from 20th and Market all the way to City Hall, and I cannot see beyond that, but I'm sure they're packed up all the way to JFK Stadium. It is an unbelievable scene. The players are enthusiastic. The people are excited, and it's something that you just have to be here to believe.
All right. Well, see, this is going to be a team effort one more time for the Phillies and the city of Philadelphia to carry this off very successfully. We'll be talking to a man who's very much involved in that right after this. Is Philadelphia's assistant city representative. The eyes of the nation are on Philadelphia today, Bill. We want this day to work.
It's going to work, Bob. We're so proud and happy of our Phils. It's a tremendous victory for the city. I think everybody in this city should be proud and happy because of the way the Philadelphia celebrated this victory. They did it with the same kind of style, the same kind of class that the Phils did. And we were delighted at the way things went at the stadium. Obviously, the people in the streets are having a great time, a good time. And it's an important thing for the city because this kind of victory unites a lot of people around the city. For today, at least, we can put away some animosities and differences and join in this tremendous celebration for this wonderful baseball team.
We like to describe it as a happening and concentrate on the great spontaneity of the reaction of the Philadelphia fans. However, there is a lot of pre-planning by the city and the Phillies.
Well, yeah, we worked very closely with the Phillies organization. We didn't want to do anything that would hinder their effort. They know how to run World Series. We don't. And we worked very closely with them. And we wanted to avoid the statement that maybe we're jinxing the Phils by anticipating the victory too much. But we worked very closely with them. The security arrangements at the stadium, the security arrangements throughout the city today have all been coordinated with that organization. And it's been a pleasure to work with them, too, because they're winners and they're great to deal with.
Don't know if you knew it or not, but after the ball game last night, Channel 17 had Mayor Bill Green on in the celebration with the players. And it's a great moment for the entire city. This means a lot to us. in terms of national prestige.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're beginning a new era for Philadelphia in a lot of ways. This is a perfect way to begin it. We were delighted to see the mayor in the locker room, those of us who worked for him, as he got the champagne poured over his head. But it's a tremendous beginning for Philadelphia, and we have a lot to look forward to. The Eagles are coming along just fine, and the other sports teams in this city, so it's going to be a great year for Philadelphia.
Easy to sell this town?
Absolutely. It's a lot easier now. People like a winner.
All right. Thank you very much, Bill McLaughlin. We know it's a very busy day for you. Get back to work.
Thanks a lot, Bob.
All right. Gene Hart, standing by at JFK Stadium. Let's switch to Gene right now.
We're back at JFK Stadium, and Bob, you mentioned JFK as a place of events. We can think of some great ones. Dempsey Tunney, Walcott Marciano, Army Navy, Beatles and Grateful Dead concerts, Eagles football, the Thrill Hero Scholarship shows, the Flyers Victory Parade, but for the first time in its great old history, the welcoming of the world champion Phillies and two of their great fans who don't remember the old days, but are the new breed of the 70s. And you are?
Annie Breen from Northeast Philadelphia. Brentwood Sachs from Ben Salem.
What time did you get here today?
10 o'clock, but we've been celebrating all night in our own neighborhood.
Girls, you had your blow-off last night. The Phillies win the World Championship. What is your inner feelings now as you anticipate the arrival of your team?
I know, I just can't wait to see them, so I think it's great. The best feeling I've had in my whole life so far. I love it.
You love it. What makes this team so special to you now?
I just love the players. Larry Bowe, I've loved since I was 10 years old. All the players. It's hard to even pick a favorite. I love them. I waited 10 years for this, so I'm just happy.
How did you feel in those down years when they said the club didn't have courage, they couldn't win under pressure? Did you believe that?
No, I didn't, and I felt really bad when people would say that they choked, and I always believed that they were winners, and I still believe they were always great from 75 on. I think that if it was time for them to win before they would have won. I was disappointed when they lost, but I figured they'd come back, and they did.
Last night, Pete Rose said that when he came to Philadelphia, the one thing the Phillies lacked was the killer instinct, and maybe he brought it. Do you agree?
I don't know. I think Bobo always had it, but Pete Rose gave it the extra push, maybe. I think Pete having experience in the other World Series might help a little.
Young ladies, enjoy your day. Jane Hart down at JFK anticipating a wonderful afternoon on a glorious day, Bob Bradley.
And we are too. Thank you, Gene. Let's switch back again now to Howard Eskin, who is reporting on the progress of our victory parade. Howard?
Okay, Bob, it's still an exciting moment here. All of the parade has passed by here at 19th and Market Street. I'm in the Provident Bank building. I'm on about the third floor, and the people are following the parade right up Market Street to City Hall and past, and people are still on the roofs until the parade loses sight. But it's no question there's still some people milling around. It was very, the fans were great. The fans were great. There was no breaking over the barriers. The barriers blocked off the people about 20 deep, and it was just an exciting thing to see the players excited and Larry Boa waving his arms and getting the fans all stirred up, and they're now on their way to City Hall, and the people are following down Market Street as well as the people on top of the roofs, and it's a happening. It's 1980, the Phillies world champions, Tug McGraw, Mike Smith, the most valuable player, everyone on the bus, including Pete Rose, and it was really great to watch.
Thank you very much, Howard. So that should be quite a celebration coming up at JFK Stadium. A man who's celebrating the victory because he came so close once before, Stan Lopata. And any Phillies fan over the years remembers Stan's great contribution to the 1950 Phils and for years thereafter. Stan, that must have been a very, very bitter pill to swallow because you played so well in that 1950 series.
Yes, Bob, due to the fact that I don't think we had anything to be ashamed of because all the ball games were close, and I believe if Kurt didn't have to go back in the reserves, perhaps maybe we'd have a different outcome.
Yeah.
But they were close ball games, and like I say, we have nothing to be ashamed of. At least I didn't.
I remember the 1950 Phillies as a totally different type of ball club and makeup in that you were all still very young players at that time.
Well, we had a young ball player. We had a few old-timers like perhaps maybe Andy Seminick and Dick Sisler, and but the majority of the ball players were all young ball players. That's why they give us the name of the Whiz Kids.
Right, and you had tremendous momentum going in, but you had, like the Phillies, you had to work so very hard coming down that stretch.
Yes, like I say, we lost Kurt in August, and that year he ended up winning 18 ball games, which he probably would have had maybe about 7 or 8 more starts, which would have helped us tremendously in our stretch drive, and then Robbie wasn't, he was hurting a little bit, and he pitched almost every other day. But seems like we lost all those games against the Giants in the Polo Grounds, and we went to Ebbets Field after they lost the first 2 games. The pressure was really on us, but we came through with Robbie pitching that last ball game and Dick Sisler hitting that home run in the 10th.
There is still a great bond of camaraderie among the fellows who are members of that team. I'm sure you still have good contacts with Richie Ashburn and so many of the other players, Robin Roberts.
Yes, Bob, when Robbie used to still live up here, now he's out in Tampa, or North Tampa, we used to get together practically maybe once a year, and we still see each other now. We had a group that we really got along. It was like a family affair, and we really enjoyed it. The ball players and also the wives got along real well, which is an important thing, being a baseball player. And because when we go on a road, we used to go on for 2 weeks, and that kind of leaves the wives back home hurting a little bit. So the wives got along real well, and they used to go out to lunch over each families or each other's homes and so forth and so on. And it was really enjoyable, and it was really real nice to go out to the ball game.
I was just looking at the parade there, and I saw George Harrison sitting there in the car with Ruley Carpenter, and of course George has been around for many years too.
Yes, I can't forget George, because he used to sign our paychecks. So George was a wonderful man, and George, I guess, got to the point that he had to retire, which we all have to do eventually. But I have great memories of George.
I think we got a special situation too. You're well acquainted with the Carpenter family. The fact that young Ruley Carpenter really paid his dues and became a very active owner in that he knows baseball now.
Well, like you say, he started out young, and matter of fact, he used to come to spring training every year, and I believe he thought he was a pretty good pitcher. Maybe, matter of fact, one afternoon we had him pitch to some of our ball players. But like you say, he started off very young. I believe he went to Reading as a general manager and so forth until he came up and being an owner of a ball club. So he knew the organization, and he learned through experience. He didn't just inherit the ball club just like that.
No, and all the hard work of the organization made all of this possible.
That is correct.
The memories are still bright of that 1950 club, and you're still in our hearts. But what happened in 1980 is the top of the mountain.
It sure is. I'm very happy for the ball club and for the city of Philadelphia. And Dallas Green, I believe, did a real wonderful job with the ball club.
Indeed, he did. And again, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
You're welcome, Bill.
All right, let's switch back to Sid Doherty, who's standing out there on the parade route. Sid, what does it look like?
Go, Sid.
Right in front of me, out at the Fairmont Hotel, there's a balcony above the entrance of the hotel with about 50 people standing on it. So, being a coward, I'm in the window ledge. I'm afraid that balcony is going to drop off. But there in front of me are the fine horse brigade of the Philadelphia Police Department, standing straight and still and true. They're leading the parade, and behind them, of course, the police wagon with the first truck, which has, that looks like the band from Overbrook High School. At least they're holding up an Overbrook banner, so I'm sure they're not imposters. But the parade has finally reached Walnut and Broad, the head of it, that is, and they've paused momentarily. I guess the enthusiasm of the crowd has just increased even more than it was before when nothing was happening. They were screaming and yelling, but now they're going out of their minds. And if you can picture, as you can see Broad Street now, I'm sure Broad Street is closed to just 2 lanes. And the rest are crowds in the other lanes up to the sidewalk. The parade has now started once again. The horsemen leading off. Here is the first float or truck with the Overbrook band in their orange and black uniforms, giving a very short medley there, followed by a group of, looks like news people, probably the media. Yeah, there's a guy holding the microphone up to get the crowd noise. He doesn't have to hold it very high. And another flatbed coming along with photographers taking pictures of everything and everybody. Everybody's getting in on the act here. They're even cheering the photographers. Now another group of Philadelphia's finest police on their horseback. They really look great. And the paper and the confetti and the toilet tissue and whatever they can grab a hold of, the IBM paper, everything is coming down. It looks like something on Wall Street, New York. I think it's better than New York's Ticket Parade because the thing looks like we're overcome with snow here. I'm expecting to see Lindbergh ride around in a car. Remember that old picture you'd see in the old movie shots years ago in theaters? And here comes the flatbed trucks with Dallas Green, the general manager, Paul, Bill Giles, there's Tuckett, McGraw, there's Gary Maddox, the whole crowd, their families, their wives, standing up, cheering, acknowledging the accolades from this crowd. They love them. These guys are king for, well, at least till next year, anyhow. Now I see where Andy Musser is down on one of the flatbeds. Howdy, Andy. He's in there with some of the cronies of his, the Phillies players. They're all intermingled here. And they are getting an overwhelming ovation from this crowd. And now the crowd, the last float has gone by, or just going by. I see Denny Lehman waving up. And behind them, the crowd has broken loose, and they're following them. They're following the truck. I don't know how they got out of there, but apparently they've released some people, and they're just following the floats and going right alongside with them. So let's hope everybody stays orderly. It looks like they will. Most of the people here in this crowd are people that don't even remember 1950. They're pretty young. So they're having a great time with their first World Series. And I'll just turn you back to Bob Bradley, because there's nothing much more to describe now except the crowd. Okay, Bob.
All right, thank you very much, Sid, and I hope you saw most of your favorites in the parade up to that point. We'll be joining them from time to time along the parade route, and we have several guests in the studio for you to meet right after this. Thatcher Longstreth is the president of Philadelphia's Chamber of Commerce, and we all know that winning a championship like this certainly means big bucks for the city. But more important than that right now is I happen to know Thatcher Longstreth is one of those long-suffering Phillies fans. It goes way back, Thatcher.
That back to 1929, I hate to admit it, but that's what it does. Jeez, I can't get over this. I mean, you know, I'm not coherent yet, and I haven't come down out of the air yet, but we're the champions.
Yeah. and the satisfactions are something that are indescribable. But those of us who've endured over these many years are having a special day today.
Only a Chicago Cub fan could know how we feel.
Right. Thatcher, what does it mean to the city now in terms of business and just income from the series alone?
Well, we figured that the 3 games here brought in about $2 million a day. So you're talking about a $6 million income just from the result of the money that's spent there. But there's so many intangibles that add up to that. What is the value of national exposure on television for all those days, all the nice things that are being said about Philadelphia? A chance to let the world see that this city in the last 20 years has just been coming on like gangbusters. My God, it's worth a fortune. And if we can continue it, I think this is part of a great upsurge that's coming through Philadelphia at the present time. Winning the World Series puts the headlights right on it, but this is just the beginning of all sorts of good things that will have nothing to do with athletics, but will be profoundly affected by the victory that the Phillies won yesterday.
We have a kind of a ball club, too, that endears them to the hearts of people across the nation because they were scufflers. They came from behind.
You know, we haven't got Ruth and Gehrig, et cetera.
Right.
We have Mike Schmidt. He's close. But the thing that we did, we had lots of Larry Boas, guys that just made the most of their talents, did it at the right time. And then we've got the greatest flake in the world in Tug McGraw. You know, we named the tugboat after him yesterday, and I was with him all day. And the guy absolutely charmed the crowd the whole time he was there. Those fellas, you know, all the fellas on the Phillies are going to be ambassadors of goodwill for the city during the upcoming year. And we can make that World Series work for us, well, right straight through the entire 365 days ahead of us.
That's just the question I was going to ask. You will make this a selling point for Philadelphia.
Oh, this will be, I mean, we're already answering our telephone, the home of the world's champions. And Pittsburgh, for example, when they had the Eagles and the Pirates last year, made this the #1 factor in the promotion of the city over the year. Obviously, we'll be doing the same thing with the Phillies, and hopefully with the Flyers and the 76ers and the Eagles.
Yeah, we don't want to be greedy, but we have a path.
I want to be greedy. I'm greedy, I'll tell you.
Well, Thatcher, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. First of all, in the capacity of being president of the Chamber of Commerce, but also it's very gratifying to sit here with a long-time Phillies fan and celebrate this special day.
I love your program. I love you. You did the most wonderful job. You're partially responsible for what happened, believe me.
Oh, I believe it. Thanks again, Thatcher. More to come on the Phillies today, right after this. Let's pick up the progress of the victory parade and join Dan Baker, Broad and Snyder. Dan?
Go, Dan. They're ringing bells. You can probably hear the noise in the background. The parade seems about 3 blocks north of us on Broad Street, proceeding steadily towards John F. Kennedy Yankee Stadium, and of course the culmination point, one can't help but sense the great feeling of brotherhood in the air as you see the good feelings that everybody seems to have for one another. It's almost as if this 1980 Phillies World Championship has purged the city of all past wrongs. It's a great, great feeling, this victory that has wiped away a century of baseball frustration, and these people are eagerly awaiting to greet the conquering heroes, the 1980 Philadelphia Phillies. This is Dan Baker on South Broad Street.
All right, Danny, sitting with me is the unmistakable Eric Gregg. Philadelphia's own contribution to the National League Umpire Corps, and it's over now. We're Philadelphians. It's very satisfying, isn't it, Eric?
It sure is. I mean, to be honest with you, I was always a fan when I first started umpiring, and I'm one of the frustrated fans that followed the Phillies for several years, but now I'm a big league umpire. I'm a National League fan, but still, it's a dream come true for the Philly fans.
Yeah, and it's also very satisfying for you to see the National League win. Eric, there weren't too many controversial calls in this series.
No, I honestly thought, Bob, that the umpires did a hell of a job. I mean, there were several tough plays. I remember the fly ball that Baker McBride had in left field, and instant replays proved again that shows it's a matter of doubt that we're right. But several people were second-guessing the umpires, but I thought the situations and the close plays at first base that our guys did one hell of a job.
And, of course, Baker McBride is a great put-on, and he came up with a classic answer, I don't know, I had my eyes closed.
I mean, that's a great banquet line right there.
Right. Eric, the one thing that concerned me in last night's ball game was an American League umpire calling balls and strikes with a Steve Carlton pitching. He doesn't see Steve Carlton the way you do, day in and day out throughout the course of a season. Is it tough to call a ball game with a breaking ball pitcher like Carlton out on the mound?
It's very difficult if you're not familiar with the pitcher. And the umpire's job is, right before the game, to get together with the other umpires in the National League, and we'll sit down and we'll talk. We'll say, gee, what kind of pitches does this guy Steve throw? Does he keep the ball low? Does he like to work the guys inside and out? Does he have a good fastball? Does Boone give you a good shot? And it's one of the main things that umpires always goes over. We always talk this, and we discuss this before each game, especially when you're seeing a new pitcher for the first time.
Let me ask you this. Is it a long ordeal to come up from the minor leagues into the major leagues as an umpire, as it is for a ball player? And are there certain goals and objectives to attain?
It's extremely difficult to make it to the major leagues as an umpire. I mean, it's only 56 of us in the whole entire country. And there are kids out nowadays that see myself or they see around Luciano that made it pretty good in baseball, and they think right away they can come right in the sand last week of a major league umpire. But it's a long, hard battle. But the thing about it, if you really want to do it and you stick to your guns and you keep your nose clean, you can become a major league umpire.
Eric, we're proud of you. Thank you for the great contribution you're making to baseball, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Bob. I enjoyed your show.
Thank you. More to come on our salute to the 1980 world champion Philadelphia Phillies right after this. Yeah, much obliged. Yeah. Watch. Phillies parade has now moved into South Philadelphia. We'll call in Dan Baker again. Dan?
For the most part, we're still waiting for the parade to make its way down South Broad Street. And I must say that most of the people here congregated in South Philadelphia are very appreciative that the parade is moving slowly. One of the complaints they voiced to me earlier was that when the Flyers were the Stanley Cup champions and they wanted to celebrate, the floats with all the stars moved a little too quickly. And they want a chance to watch their heroes and see the world's champions and look right into their faces and recognize each and every one of them. Of course, they're not wearing their uniforms. They're in civilian clothes. And these people want to just go up there and be as close to them as they possibly can. Of course, they'd like to touch them if they possibly could. And you have to say just everything good about the police. What a fabulous job they did at Veterans Stadium. The whole country saw the great compassion that the Philadelphia baseball fans had for the Phillies. And, of course, they did not damage the stadium in any way. And they were enthusiastic, yet not destructive. And we here in Philadelphia are so very proud. There's a shot of the large crowd in front of St. Agnes Hospital here at Broad and McKean Streets in South Philadelphia. And look at this shot from above. What a throng on South Broad Street. And these people, thousands and thousands of them, are prepared to accompany this parade route right into John F. Kennedy Stadium. They're proud to be a part of this parade, Bob, in South Philadelphia.
Right, thank you very much, Dan. Mage McDonald was with the Philadelphia Phillies back in 1950, working with some very young pitchers. Came awfully close. And he's still with the Philadelphia Phillies today, and he'll be our guest right after this. Were you working with the Phillies in '64 today?
No.
Mic check, please, sir.
Just a little test. Say a few words.
Oh, yes. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Is that all right?
Mage McDonald was with the 1950 Phillies. We discussed this just a week ago, Mage.
Right.
And just before the 1980 series began, we talked a little bit about the difference in the two ball clubs. Back in those days, you were going to have pitching problems going into the series. You knew it. You had to start with a reliever.
Yes, it was a tremendous thing, Bob, for Eddie Sawyer to start Jim Constanti, who never started a major league ball game, a big league ball game in his life. He always came in relief, and he started this ball game and did a tremendous job.
You just lost Kurt Simmons to the service?
Lost Kurt Simmons to the service. Bubba Church was hurting. Bob Miller was hurting. We were hurting pitching-wise, and yet we got good pitching in the series. They were all very close ball games.
And yet in this series, the Phillies pitching ran deep.
Very deep. I think the last 2 months of the season, the Phillies had the best overall pitching in big league baseball.
I do, too.
The last 2 months of the season.
And another thing I think that separates this team from the 1950 team would be the gloves in the infield from first right around to third. I think I've never seen such leather in one infield.
Tremendous. I think Manny Trio, for one in particular, had the best, did the best job of any second baseman I've ever seen for one full season. Tremendous year he had. And plus Bo is great with the leather, so is Schmidt.
And those men at the corners.
And Pete Rose really turned into a fine-fielding first baseman.
And wasn't that a memorable play with 2 out in the 9th inning last night when Boone juggled the ball and Pete Rose, Mr. Hustle, was there to grab it?
Bob, I knew we had him all the way when Pete grabbed that. You don't see that play too often.
Mage, you are still with the Phillies today. It has to have been a very satisfying baseball career for you.
It's just great, Bob, to be a part of 2 championship ball clubs, the 1950 club and this club. Just to be a little small part of it, it is something. Yes, it is.
And sitting on the sidelines over there, Del Ennis, Johnny Callison, some of our great heroes of the past. We're going to be talking to them. We're going to go back to the parade route. More to come on this special on the Phillies 1980 coming up very shortly. The parade has reached Broad and Snyder. We're going to reach out and call in Dan Baker again. Dan?
Well, that parade is getting closer and closer, and the lead vehicles, the vanguard of this parade, have passed us. That would be the flashing lights on the police vans and police cars, and some of the official automobiles of the city have passed us, and they have bullhorns, and they're warning the people to please stand back. They want to be so careful that nobody would be injured, and of course the crowd has been very cooperative, very mannerly, very orderly. Again, the police doing an outstanding job. Maybe in the background you can hear chants are going up. They're cheering for the Phillies. Who are the best? The Phillies. Who are the world champions? The Phillies. They love their Phillies, and in just a few moments, the people of South Philadelphia are going to be seeing the world champions of 1980. Bob, in just a few moments, we'll be getting a chance ourselves to look at the 1980 Phillies, and right now we go back to Bob Bradley at Channel 17.
Thank you, Danny. It's Bob Bradley and John Callison. John, it really happened this time.
Well, you know, we come close.
Oh, yeah.
But in
64, of course, is just etched in our memories. And we look back on it, and, well, you kind of remind me of the scramblers we had this year, because I remember you battling down that stretch, and, of course, the last day of the season. You know, you had a memorable career here in Philadelphia, and that 64 club gave it really all it had. But you kind of ran out of people, didn't you?
Ran out of gas.
Exactly.
I don't think we had the best team that year, but we played harder than anybody else.
That's right. We're thinking of the injury to Frank Thomas, for example.
Well, that hurt more than anything.
Yeah.
We had 9 first basemen. You know, it's crazy when you have that many players playing in one position. Then bunting and short, pitching every day. It's just too tough.
Yeah. And the Dennis Bennetts and the other fellows like that who were having the arm miseries coming down the stretch.
Well, Dennis Bennett had pitched a great game in San Francisco, and it's so cold out there. And he hurt his arm, and I guess, 3 weeks of the season to go, and he just couldn't pitch anymore. Art Mahaffey pitched good. Mm-hmm. And we ended up using the wrong players for, you know, our relievers. We had Jack Balsham all year, and then we ended up with Bobby Locke, you know, some guys they brought out of minor leagues. And
you just ran out of people.
Yeah.
You had a good blend at that time of veterans and kids, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Much like this year's team.
Well, the nucleus of the team was young, mm-hmm. You know, it was 25 and under. And then we had a guy like Bunning, you know, and a few older guys that come in, and they filled in well. I think it just like you said, ran out of gas.
And John, when we look back in those years, what happened in the following years, 65, 66, 67, when you tried to win it by adding 1 or 2 veterans, it didn't work, did it?
Well, that's what you do. You end up getting rid of the young players, and you get the older players that have a year left or 2 years, and then all of a sudden you don't have the club there anymore. You got to keep bringing kids in, and I think Dallas Green did the best job of doing that of any manager I ever saw.
Put you out on the limb right now, John Callison. What do you see as a future now for this ball club? Can they do it again?
Sure. Yeah, I can see these young pitchers coming through. It's the main thing. They got to get somebody to go with Carlton, you know, a little more. And I like these young boys. They throw hard. They'll get their confidence, and they'll be right in there.
Thank you for sharing this very memorable day with us, John Callison.
Thank you. I'm so happy.
Good. More to come on our special TV celebration of the Phillies' victory right after this. All right, let's go back one more time to Dan Baker, who is standing by in South Philadelphia, and pick up the parade. Dan?
Bob, once again, you can see this huge crowd making its way down South Broad Street. And again, I have to point out that these fans are so appreciative of the graciousness and the planning that went into this very parade. The fact that they're moving so slowly, and these fans are getting an opportunity to see their heroes. Right now, there are just thousands and thousands of school kids. As you know, the schools in the Archdiocese and the Philadelphia public school system, they have classes today, but a lot of kids are obviously not attending, and I suspect neither are their teachers. We bumped into an older man just moments ago, a senior citizen, who wanted to know if the A's won again when he was informed that Philadelphia had another world champion. And down here in these beautiful, spacious row homes of South Philadelphia, people are hanging out of every available window to salute the world champions, the 1980 Philadelphia Phillies. And Bob, in just a few moments, those floats containing all of the stars will be right in front of us. But right now, Bob, we'll go back to you in anticipation of the Phillies, who are just moments away from Broad and McKean.
Del, in 1950, was it anything like this?
Well, it was similar, only it was only one thing, Bob. We didn't win it.
That's right.
You know.
Del, of course, you were the power hitter. You were the Mike Schmidt of the 1950 Phillies. Look back to that team. How do you compare it with the cardiac kids of 1980?
Well, up until the series, I would compare our teams pretty well equal.
Yeah.
It's just like going back 30 years ago. It just seems like it happened this week.
And your games were all close games.
They were all real close ball games. 1-0, 2-1, 3-2. Yep, they were fine games.
Earlier we talked to Stan Lopata, we talked to Mage McDonald about the 1950 club, and perhaps one of the major differences was at the time that you went into the series, you didn't have the depth of pitching left, did you?
No, we were just about worn out. We had a few injuries, and Kurt wasn't with us. He was in the service, and Robbie was getting a little tired pitching every other day, but I think if we had won it a few days ahead of time, we would have come out a lot better in the World Series.
At that time, I was living in an American League city, but I was still a Phillies fan. I'd followed the club, from the late 40s on. And they were finding little gems in the rough at that time, weren't they?
Right.
You'd played in the service. You were a great find. Fellas like Robin Roberts were taken off a college campus. Richie Ashburn was coming up. It must have been a very exciting and a building time for the 1950 club.
Well, it was a bunch of young kids. We had Goliad in his first year, and we had some experienced players like Wakes and Sisler and those fellas. Plus, I had about 2 or 3 years under my belt, and Willie, we all come up more or less together, and we just gelled all at once.
Now, the question is, since it was such a young team, and the prognosis was that they were going to be a dynasty, what happened in the succeeding years? Why didn't you stay on top?
Well, the following year, I believe I hurt my back, and a few of the fellas had off years, and I think Kurt stayed in the service, and our pitching sort of got worn out a little bit. We never did come up with that other pitcher to replace Kurt or Bob Miller or Bubber Church, and it sort of set us back a little bit. I think we went 4th that year. And
do you think the 1980 Phillies can sustain this momentum for years to come?
Well, I think so. I think that they have good, healthy ball players, and they're good, young, coming ball players, and there's no reason in the world they shouldn't stay right there.
It took us 30 years, but we're at the top of the mountain.
It's been a pleasure.
Bill Ennis, thank you very much for joining us.
All right, thanks, Bob.
I just want to tell you that in the event that some of the members of the family are unable to watch our telecast today, we will be on the air again tonight with highlights of this entire celebration. More details on that a little later. Let's switch back right now to Dan Baker in South Philadelphia. Dan?
What a wild scene is taking place right now. Police Commissioner Morton Solomon, Wilson Good, the city commissioner, of course, leading the parade. Now, here come the Phillies executives. Here comes a float containing the radio and television media, the newspaper media, and now we can see the Phillies coming into view. And look at this shot from overhead. You can see the beautifully decorated floats containing all of the dignitaries high above Broad and Moore Streets. That's right on the corner of Broad and Moore. With that overhead shot, now we switch back to street level, and here they come. And, of course, in the first group, here's Dallas Green motioning his way up here, Sylvia, Keith Carpenter, Bill Giles, Tug McGraw. Now, they're not on camera yet. They're going to pass in front of our camera location in just a moment, and we'll try to point out some of those dignitaries. Look at this crowd shot. Do you believe this? South Philadelphia greeting the heroes, the world champion Philadelphia Phillies. And as a lot of the members with which we have the privilege to work, there's Billy DeMars, Katie DeMars, Mike Ryan, Lee Elia, the coaches. My wife saw one of these floats with the employees, Kathy Baker, and of course all the employees basking in the glory of the World Championship. The front office people, part-time personnel, they've all been allowed to take place. Here's Kathy and the rest of that good sales office. They're looking over here. There's newspaper headlines being held in the air. This is just an incredible scene. There are people parading down Broad Street with pictures of the players. There are people dressed up in uniforms. There's one guy that's dressed up like Harpo Marx, complete with the fright wig and the horn and everything else. Somebody else is asking where Governor Thorndike is, but we'll permit him that mistake if he doesn't know the governor's last name. They are so excited here in South Philadelphia. There's Bob Boone, there's Bill Giles and Dallas Green, Willie Carpenter and George Harrison, Larry Bowler holding that big one finger up in the middle of your picture. Look at Del Unser, what a big pinch hit. Mayor Green, Mike Schmidt with his little child. There they are, the Philadelphia Phillies. They've arrived at Broad and McKean in South Philadelphia. Here comes an employee's float. They're pointing, there's Greg Gross pointing right at our camera. And look at all of the Phillies employees are so happy. Bob Walk in the cowboy hat. Here we are, once again, see that crowd making its way down Broad Street. There's Rita Clark, a receptionist just retiring after many, many years with the Phillies. And once again, we look at this huge throng as it accompanies the floats and the parade down South Broad Street. And of course, shortly we'll be taking you to Gene Hart at John F. Kennedy Stadium on the triumphant arrival of the 1980 World Champions. But right now, we're watching as the parade slows momentarily, and these people love every minute of it. Look at them crowding around. They want to get in the camera too, and you can see some people look like leftovers from the New Year's Day parade and the mummers, and that's what it looks like. It's the New Year's Day parade, the great Philadelphia Thanksgiving parade, all rolled into one. And again, look at how hospitable everyone is to one another, and that's a most gratifying thing here. There's no destructiveness on the part of anybody. A great planned parade on the part of the police and the city government, and of course the Philadelphia Phillies. And we have the dignitaries from all walks. There's the Philly fanatic, the symbol of the great good times that we've enjoyed here with Philadelphia baseball. Oh, his heart. He's fainting and enjoying every minute of it. And he's amidst an adoring public here in South Philadelphia near St. Agnes Hospital at Broad and McKean Streets. This is Dan Baker reporting for your World Series station in Philadelphia, Channel 17. Okay, Bob.
Thank you very much, Danny Baker, for that beautiful description. A glorious celebration. The whole city turned on, and everybody tuned in. Don't forget to tune in tonight at 8 o'clock. We'll bring you the highlights of this very special day. Standing by with me in the studios now is a gentleman who has endured 1950, 1964, and he's with us today to celebrate this ultimate victory. Bill Campbell. We'll be joining Bill right after this.
Phillies trainer Don Seeger and Jeff Cooper, equipment manager Kenny Bush and Pete Serra, Gus Heffling, physical fitness instructor Gus Heffling, Hugh Alexander and Jim Baumer, two of the greatest super scouts in the country. They helped bring the club here. Jack Pastore, director of scouting, Howie Bedell, Andy Musser, broadcast colleague, Tim McCarver, Chris Wheeler, Steve Silverman, Rich Ashford, Andrew Clark. And now the guys that brought, for the first time in 97 years, a world championship to Philadelphia. He got us here by winning the 5th game of the playoffs, Dick Ruthven. Maybe Rookie of the Year. Let's hope so. Lonnie Smith. Another young man who did a great job for the Phils. Behind the plate is a pinch hitter, the Longhorn, Keith Moreland. You heard the clinching party in Houston. You know that this fella, because of the World Series, with his share, is buying a home here and going to live here. Ramon Aviles. This fella is the epitome of what they call a team man. John Vukovich. Vuko. No relation, another rookie, used primarily as a pinch hitter, the toughest job in baseball. He did it well. George Vukovich. Alice Green said the biggest hit in Game 5 of the playoffs against Houston was a bunt single, laid down by Greg Gross. 1952 that a rookie started game 1 of the World Series. He started it, he won it. Bob walked. Fellow that came out of the bullpen during the playoffs, during the World Series to get the job done, Dickie Knowles. And his zany counterpart from the left side, Kevin Saucher. Well, the question is whether this fellow would ever pitch again. He missed the last 2 years. He worked hard. He came back. He helped this club win the World Series. Warren Brewster. Also a question if this fella could pitch the remainder of the year. He started a game in Houston, went 6 shutout innings. Larry Christensen. How about the young man that started game 5? Was only up to the big leagues for a month, started game 3 or 4 of the World Series, 5 of the World Series, Marty Bystrom. The lieutenant's under Dallas Green, the guy that positions the fielders. He's Dallas Green's right-hand man in the dugout, Bobby Wine. Third base coach, Lee Elia. Pitching coach, Herm Starrett. Bullpen coach, ex-Phil, Irish Mike Ryan. Batting instructor, Billy DeMar. First base coach, Ruben Amaro. Batting practice pitcher extraordinary, Hank King. The guy that takes care of all of our travel, all of our hotels through the last 3 weeks has done a magnificent job. Eddie Ferenz, Eddie Spaghetti. Phillies director of publicity, Larry Shank, who just handled the media as well as he could possibly do. Now, in this flow, guy that started the game last night won it. He's going to be the Cy Young Award winner, lefty Steve Coe. Now a world champion, the big guy, the Bull, Greg Luzinski. What a job the next fella did in 1980 for the Phillies, playing right field on a couple of bunged up knees. All he did is drive in more runs than he ever had in his career. Shake and bake McBride. Most valuable player of the playoffs. Around second base, Tim McCarver calls him Rudolph Nureyev. Manny Trio. Game against Houston, which got the Phillies in the World Series, and a slide at home plate. Our catcher was injured badly. He could barely walk after the game from the 4th inning on, yet he caught 6 more innings. He was so exhausted he almost fell afterwards. Talk about courage. Phillies catcher, Bob Boone.
just want to thank all of you people for allowing me to earn a living playing a game that I love, and to give me the opportunity to stand here today as part of a world champion. Thank you.
He catches everything in center field. Got the game-winning hit in Houston in the 10th inning to send the Phillies to the World Series. Gary Maddox. This next fella's been around a lot of years with a lot of ball clubs. He's reached the ultimate world championship. Nobody got more clutch pinch hits than Del Unser.
We are finally number one. You fans are number one. I want to thank all of you, including these great policemen here that saved our lives all day. And thank you for showing up here and helping us celebrate, all of us, a world championship in Philadelphia. Thank you.
Next fella's battled all of his life, from the time he was 5 years old, to win a world championship. He's battled just about everybody, and he's a winner. And he certainly proved it in this World Series. Phillies shortstop, Larry Bowa.
I'll tell you, this is probably the greatest moment in my entire life. And I'm glad that I can share it with the greatest fans in baseball. Thank you.
Most valuable player of the 1980 World Series. He'll be the most valuable player of the National League. Michael Jack Schmidt.
Thank you. Y'all showed me your true colors today. I never saw so many sincere faces in that parade in my life as I did today. Take this world championship and savor it, because you all deserve it.
He's been through a few World Series with the Cincinnati Reds. We're sure glad we have him on our side. Pete Rose.
Thank you. Just like Harry said, I've been through this 5 times, and there's no question in my mind that you people are the greatest. Thank you.
Well, as was the case all year against Montreal in the playoffs and the World Series, who's going to finish it? Who's going to finish the celebration? The 1-2 pitch to Hal McRae, swing and a miss, struck him out. Tug McGraw.
baseball history, Philadelphia has had to take a back seat to New York City. Well, New York City can take this world championship and stick it, because we're number one!
Everyone said last night, players, front office personnel, that they couldn't quite get the feeling. It wouldn't sink in until tomorrow. You millions of fans have really made it sink in. We love you. Thank you so much. Most beautiful fans in the country. '80 Philadelphia Phillies, world champions of baseball. We're number one. We're number one. We're number one. You've been so good through the parade, through this ceremony. Thank you. Please leave in orderly fashion. God bless you. We'll see you in 1981. Thanks a lot. You're beautiful.
Beautiful job by Harry Callis, and there was no question that the #1 rocking ovation had to go to Tug McGraw. And we often have heard the cliche throughout the years of a stadium rock. Well, the position high atop JFK Stadium did shake when the name of Tug McGraw was announced, because he exhibited the kind of emotion, that overt emotion that fans love. And he spoke for the Phillies this year so eloquently. Dallas Green said last night, Bob Bradley, as we look at Del Unser and the Phillies float, he said the guys who he had the most difficult time of getting through when he wanted was the guys that came through the most in the clutch. And you had such an outpouring of emotion from the likes of Larry Boa and Mike Schmidt. And you sense perhaps, Bob, that over the period of years, as Saturday's child, the Phillies, who had received so much abuse for conduct on the field, for their reticence with the media, for their failures to win world titles or playoffs, you think perhaps that they built the shell of defensiveness around them that really made it impossible to display their emotions as they have today. But that shell is gone, and what a joy it was to hear them, and for Mike Schmidt and for Larry Boa, who 3 weeks ago said the worst fans, now meaning the best fans, and realizing that no longer is that on his back. And Mike Schmidt has been so resident. There's Bob Boone, and really, as we said, unable to move after games 5 and 6 concluded because of the fatigue and pain. His lovely wife, Sue, now going to enjoy the best summers of their lives. Bill Green again, the mayor, as the fans start to leave. Part of this magnificent ceremony here today in the city of Philadelphia on a glorious day, the third such tribute to a sports team in history. And Bob Bradley, we're happy to have been here to take this part of Channel 17's activity. Gene Hart from JFK to Mr. Bradley back at the studio.
Well, our sincere thanks to Gene Hart for his unmatched eloquence and this very graphic description of a mammoth and monumental sports event in our town. Also, our thanks to our reporters in the field, Dan Baker, Sid Doherty, and Howard Eskin. And, of course, as always, thanks to the Scuffling Heroes, the comeback cardiac kids, our Phillies. So our dream of a world championship is really over. And now the reality sets in. Yep, it's all true. Our thanks to Lefty and Tug and Charlie Hustle and Bake and Dell and Boa. And the forgotten men, perhaps, Nino and Randy and Ron. Manny, the Bull, Mike, Booney, Rufus, L.C., Brew, Dickie, Gary, Greg, Keith, Lonnie, Kevin, George and John Vukovich, Ramon, and the three men who joined the club late and gave so much. And I'm thinking of Bystrom, Walk, and Sparky Lyle. They just would not let it get away this time. Special thanks, of course, to Rulli and the Pope and Dallas Green. How they struggled to make it all work. It wasn't easy, but of course, nothing of importance or value ever is. To all of you, thanks for the memory of this moment. We'll be back with more right after this. Thank you very much for sharing this very special celebration of our 1980 Phillies here on Channel 17, the Phillies station. If you'd like to relive it, if some members of your family were not able to watch, tell them to be sure to get a good seat tonight at 8 o'clock. We'll be back with our final tribute to our heroes of 1980. We'll see you then.
The World Champion Phillies Victory Celebration, brought to you in part by Gerard Bank. Gerard salutes baseball's best. We're proud to be teammates with Philadelphia's fabulous Phillies. By Tasty Cake. Take a championship timeout with Tasty Cake. By Eric Theaters. The best movies in town are at an Eric. Catch one soon. By Kmart. Kmart is the saving place. By Gulf and their new super unleaded gasoline. And by Michelob Light. Compare the taste of Michelob Light to any beer.